Hey everybody, Mr. Smith here. I am talking to you guys today about the aspects of communication. So by the end of this video, you should be able to explain the differences between verbal and nonverbal messages and illustrate the flow of the communication process. All right, so let's think about this. What is communication? Well, communication is the exchange of messages. That's all well and good, that's great, but what's a message? We got to know what that is to understand what the exchange of messages is. So what's a message? Well, messages are thoughts, ideas, and feelings that we share with others. You boil it all down, thoughts, ideas, and feelings, that's all information, okay? Messages contain information. So it's the sharing of information. The way we share messages, that's called delivery. So delivery is how we send our messages. Delivery is the way in which you use your voice and body to communicate with a listener or an audience. When you watch this video, what I want you to do is I want you to take note at how the words are said. You've got two characters saying the exact same words, but their delivery is different. And listen to how it changes the message.
Call you back. Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there.
What a day.
With car insurance for when things go wrong,
What a day!
but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Okay, there are two kinds of messages. They are verbal and nonverbal. Let's look at verbal messages first. Verbal messages are those that use words. They're either spoken out loud or they could also be written down. Verbal messages, they're just a collection of sounds. Alphabetical letters, B, T, C, Q, are all just symbols for sounds. Otherwise, how would you know what sound to make? We wouldn't be able to read or write. When put together, those sounds form words that symbolize thoughts and ideas. We attach meaning to words, the collection of sounds. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, not a trick question. What is this? I hope you said it's a tree. Now, there's nothing about this thing that grew out of the ground that notified everybody else that it's supposed to be called a tree. We've just agreed to call it a tree because it'd be really difficult to talk about trees or anything else if we didn't have some way of identifying it. So we've agreed to call it a tree. And that word itself is just a collection of different sounds. Tree. These are all just symbols, okay? Symbols that you can see and symbols that you can hear. Okay, so now let's look at nonverbal messages. Nonverbal messages do not use words, okay? Nonverbal messages are unspoken. They're often sent just with the body and face, or body or face. Here's some examples of nonverbal messages. Gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, posture, physical appearance. So now let's check for some understanding here. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to see if you can identify which of these are verbal and which of these are nonverbal. Laughter, sign language, and emojis. Go ahead and pause the video and we'll pick up after a second. Okay, let's see how you did. Laughter is nonverbal. Yes, there's sound, but there are no words. Nobody laughs by saying, funny, 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 funny. Okay, no one does that. So, no words, just sounds. Let's look at sign language. What do you guys think about that one? It's verbal. Sign language is its own actual language. In fact, right now on the news, I bet a lot of press conferences, if you watch, you'll see somebody actually signing right now. Emojis are non-verbal because there are no words being used. That's the rule. Words or no words. Okay, so now let's look at clarity. How well do we send our messages? Clarity is how clear a speaker's words or message are. Typically, more clarity is better because the clearer a message is, the easier it is for us to understand. With verbal messages, there are a few ways a message can become unclear. There could be a problem with pronunciation, articulation, volume, enunciation, and rate. And let's take a look at those. Pronunciation is the production of correct sounds and syllable stresses. Here's an example of some poor pronunciation.
But we do learn to treat our passengers like royalty. Yeah. So, shall we get started? Go!
Assess the window.
Okay, stop.
Grasp-
Stop.
What?
It's assess the window, not asses the window. You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Articulation is the process of forming sounds into words. So you're able to actually make all the sounds that you need to be able to make in order to create a word. A lot of times, younger kids really struggle with this because they just haven't learned how to create those sounds. Volume is the softness or loudness of sound. How many of you guys have ever been around somebody who is so difficult to hear that you actually couldn't get their message because they talk so softly? Like, think of that one girl in Pitch Perfect. That'd be a good example. Enunciation is the process of forming sounds into words that are clear and distinct. In other words, we can tell when one word ends and the next word begins. They're not all running together. Sometimes I like to use the example of if you've ever listened to someone speak in a foreign language, you're not really sure where one word starts and stops because you just don't know the words. So that's a little bit what this is like. And we've got another example right here.
Catch me outside. How about that?
Huh?
Catch me outside. How about that?
Catch you outside? What does that mean?
What I just said.
All right, and rate is the speed at which you talk. So people who talk really, really fast can be difficult to understand. Also, people who talk too slow. How many of you guys have ever heard somebody just their words were really drawn out and you just wanted them to hurry up? Even just now, you wanted me to stop that, right? You can remember these 5 things with a mnemonic device: PAVER, pronunciation, articulation, volume, enunciation, and rate, PAVER. Now, let's look at the exchange of messages. The sender sends the information, and the receiver receives the information. Effective communication involves feedback, which is a return message. So you send a message, someone sends a message back. That's called feedback. All right, in the diagram, it says on your notes, but you don't have notes. But who would you say is the sender and who is the receiver? Who's the sender, right or left? Left. All right, and who's the receiver? That would make the person on the right the receiver. Now, which is the message and which is the feedback? The message is that initial communication, and then what is sent back, that's the feedback. This is the communication process, and what you're going to see is it's unending. It just keeps going and going and going. What you're also going to notice is that the colors on this are gross. And so what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to recreate this communication process using fun, bright colors and one example of verbal communication and one example of nonverbal communication. And the directions are going to be on Google Classroom for you.